For 4:05, I'd like to get everybody to go ahead and have a seat. Please make yourself comfortable. Looks like we got some people coming in with chairs. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. And thank you all for attending. This is our first DEIB Salon, and hopefully we will have an opportunity to do these more frequently as we go through the rain. And hopefully we can set a precedent that other crowns will take an interest in doing this as we go through. Before we get started, I just a couple of oh, you have an echo.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's like
reverb. Yeah, I can hear it over there. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Sounds like you're in the mountains.
Yes.
Her Majesty has such a booming voice. It echoes through the land.
It does. It does.
Such is her power.
Perfect. Thank you, Kopina. So let's just I want to start with setting some expectations and some boundaries, because boundaries are very important. I want everyone to understand that this is a safe space, that this is a place of trust and respect, and that this is a place that we can all talk to one another about the things that we're encountering in the SCA with respect to disabilities and our difficulties, because the idea is to eventually take ideas from these meetings and create plans for going forward to make sure that we have better accessibility for our events, for all to be able to come out and play. And so we will respect all voices in this meeting. Everyone will be allowed a chance to talk. You will not be shouted down or told that your opinion is invalid. And that's very important. If you have an agreement with an opinion, thumbs up or handy. If you don't have an agreement, you have a different thought. If you give me a thumbs down, that means you have a different thought, and we'll try to come around to you and get some of those different thoughts out. That way, everybody has an opportunity to talk through the issues. Before we get started, I just want to spend a little bit of time with all of us getting to know one another. And so I'm going to start with Mr. Charlotte.
Okay.
Mr. Charlotte, can you tell us really quickly, just give us a little idea of why did you come to the SCA? What brought you to our dream?
My ex-husband. It was kind of like I found home. I found people that liked the same kind of music that I did. I mean, because I was brought up with a music teacher father, so it's classical music that I was drawn to. And all of a sudden, I'm hearing classical music at events, or there's a lot of different things. But I realize every one of us are just as crazy. It's like coming home.
Thank you. How many other people have that experience when you came into the SCA and you found that one thing that spoke to your soul? Excellent. Yes. Let's come over here. Who's that? What brought you into the SCA?
A guy. And not the traditional way. He actually said, "Hey, I do this thing on the weekends." We did online gaming. He said, "I do this thing on the weekend, and I think you would really like it." And I was hooked. I went to a fighter practice. I was an archer for years, grew up bow hunting with my father. And somebody put a rapier in my hand, and I said, "Oh, no, this is my new favorite thing." And I was hooked. And then I found like-minded souls that felt the way I felt, and it was on from there.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Pauline, I don't know your name. Fortune, what brought you to the SCA?
I came from another group of steampunks, and the friends' parents were in this, and I think you'll like it. And they brought me, and I just kept coming back. And then I found my thing with embroidery with my teacher. That's where it started.
It seems like everybody came in and they found that one thing that spoke to their soul, and that's the thing that kept them here. But as we progress through the game, I know that there are those that have had difficulties staying here. And one of those difficulties staying here is the mobility, accessibility of the events. And so is there anyone who would like to start off by sharing their experience with issues with accessibility of events? Yes, ma'am. Fortuna.
Actually started with here.
Okay.
There's only 2 accessible porta potties. You have to go from one end or all the way to the other end
And there's a lot of people who can't use the regular ones, you know, with walkers, wheelchairs. I have a service dog. She ain't gonna fit in with me. And some people have kids.
Marissa,
So
and I can't fit in the right. That's good to know.
Behind the shower house is another row of porta potties, and it does have one handicap there too.
Some of the other porta potties are not accessible when they're closer because they're across the sand and grass.
Location is an issue.
yeah, it's the number is good. It's just maybe within the row have one accessible. So if there's wherever we go, there's one there.
At least one there. So on each one.
Mhm.
Stan.
Kind of tying in and segueing into another thing is I was at an event recently where I realized how my mobility issues are limiting my choices when I go to an event is people having sites not only to privies and so forth because you know, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to drink a lot of water because I'm gonna have to trek so far because it's got a lovely accessible but then also the parking you know tends to be, oh well, we have all this parking, but oh, there's a mundane thing going on. Whoops, there it went. And excuse me. Or you know, again, a lot of our sites are wonderful and we've got uneven terrain. And so that's not a bad thing, but it's not a good thing.
And it's hard. It's hard with mobility devices. Absolutely. So I'm just going to kind of walk around, work my way around. Margot?
I think smaller events is a non-issue, but myself, I have very flexible mobility. I have EDS, so sometimes it's really great. Sometimes I can't walk. I only made it down to the fort once because that hill is killer. Bigger events are super helpful if there's some kind of transportation to help people who can't make it up and down hills or that far.
You know, like golf course.
Yeah, golf course, I make it around. Golf course, I make it around. I get to do stuff at golf course because if I'm not very mobile that day, I can hop on a golf cart and make it to where I need to
Park in
go.
your car.
But here, I went down there once. I probably won't go back down there again. My
Understood.
knees aren't good.
This way.
Hi, I'm Esther. I am not currently disabled as such, but we all know that's our future, don't we?
Yes.
And hi, I know you. And what I noticed at golf last year was we stayed off site and they did not offer us a day trip parking pass. We didn't know there was such a thing. We left after dark that evening, late enough to be told, oh, there's no transportation out to parking, too bad. And my watch turned over 10,000 steps. It buzzed for me right as I walked out the gate. At 13,000 steps, that is 3,000 steps to my car. We found our car, which was also in the dark. We were having a terrible time finding it. We got lost. That's not really anybody else's fault other than we could have been better about that. But I kept thinking about one of our friends on site that I'd left behind because she was staying there. But she had a cane, and if she'd been with us, we couldn't have got her to the car. And so could we make it clear if there is parking that's closer for people who, for whatever reason, are not on site, make sure there is an affirmative offer of there is parking for people who are day tripping. Also, you don't have to have a handicap placard to get it. You don't have to wait till you're disabled enough to get that parking. If you're off site for whatever reason, you shouldn't have to get your whole medical history just to get a parking spot you can find at 11 o'clock at night. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm looking at her.
I would add to that, not only advertising the amenities of your events very clearly, but signage. When I first came into the SCA, we occasionally did signage, and then we didn't, and then we did, and then now we're back to didn't. I think because COVID kind of took out the ability to socialize and know what we need to have. Signage on the site of where things are, because I've had people drop by our encampment and ask, do you know where this is? Do you know where the nearest potty is? Do you know where the BFT is? Do you know where whatever it is? And I think for all of us, as you say, aging in place is a thing. I know I don't look it, but I am in my 50s. having that memory cue is really nice.
It's a good thing, 100%, 100%.
Sorry, I just wanted to add real quick to that because it's complements with, wording is powerful. So, as we've indicated, using the term handicap will deter some people
Yes.
who go, I don't have a placard, but using mobility friendly. You're wonderful, you're fantastic. It's a wonderful point that is fabulous. But saying mobility challenged, I think is some helpful wording just to tie in with what you guys decided.
Absolutely. You're excellent.
I would like to invite you to take the scooter to the bathroom. See, even a curve or sans kids, but I'd also like to say people are so agreeable to run out and offer help when you do get stuck. Even here at Kensington, everywhere, people are just so willing to help. But the groups over by the bathroom are crazy. That's not anybody's fault, but just like I said, and going over there, and I tried to go to the castle last year, and the road ends at the bathrooms.
Right.
So I got down a little bit, and I had to get a 10-year-old to drive it back up for me, and she was really happy. But
But yeah, you couldn't have gotten back up.
I can walk a little.
Right.
But if somebody could walk at all, they'd be really stuck.
So it sounds like for this particular site, one of the things that we may need to consider is working in golf carts into the budget.
Yeah.
At least just at the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill, if anybody wants. Yeah.
And just, there used to be golf carts in a long time ago, but it was for security, but I think there's some local that could probably be.
That we could work on.
Yeah.
For future. That's
I have someone who is unable to make it to this event because of accessibility issues, and she would also like to speak.
absolutely.
So I will let her introduce herself since I can't show everyone. I will try to get.
Hi.
Hi there. Oh, what wonderful sovereign. It's Julia here. You know me from the fact that we're Italian and I'm
Yes.
in a breathing wheelchair.
Yes, ma'am.
So a lot of what I was going to say, people mentioned, but I have a really sad story to tell you about, what has happened. And that is what I have found is that people don't know.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just seeing, I don't think anybody else can, but go ahead
I'll translate here.
Yep. So if you want me to hold and you want to translate, that would be perfect. Okay, Julie, please tell us your story.
Okay, so there was an event that happened this fall that I was actually part of, and for months I asked if the site was going to be handicap accessible, and the other fact I kept being assured that it was, and it was. And what I found is that people don't know what they don't know. What happened was is that the site was, you see me, I get around pretty well with that little pink chair of mine. But what ended up happening was, I couldn't make it to morning. There was no lane available for me to get up to morning court. So I managed to get up what ended up being a hill because the site was not flat. And after leaving morning court, I ended up my wheelchair trying to go back down that hill. My wheelchair actually spiked.
Oh, goodness.
I, of course, am slowing it down, but the critical force of going down the hill meant that, I went forward out of my chair. I was actually caught, and my husband, my lovely husband, said, well, it does have a seatbelt. Had I had the seatbelt on, the wheelchair would have gone under me.
Right. Over you. Mm-hmm.
But it's out nice because it's how I was not, my massage therapist found where I was sure that next Wednesday. But that autocrat kept telling me about how she was going to make sure I was in a good spot I ran the largest derby for my Barony. When I got to the event to set up. Where she wanted to put me was across the road next to the disability everything, next to the disability fortified. I would have been cut off from everything.
Yep.
And the thing is that it was a widely successful largesse, like 353 pieces of largesse. But people would not have got their, all those artisans would not have got their, themes. People would not have known where it was to vote. Those artisans would not have got their things being. But, so my husband did find me a flat place for where we did set up. But after what happened the morning of the event, was that it meant that I basically was trapped
Right.
all day next to it, and I couldn't participate in anything. So there's just not, my biggest concern is that on outdoor events, that people don't know, when they look at a site, it looks flat to them, but is it really? And is somebody in a motorized wheelchair like mine is, or scooter, really going to be able to get around? I've also noticed from indoor events that there aren't ever, either type of events, there's never enough or reasonably placed disability parking places.
Yep. And we were just talking about disability parking and the fact that we were discussing handicap versus mobility friendly parking, because there are those that do not have placards that still need some extra help. And so the parking is definitely a situation.
Yeah.
Yes.
But,
Yes.
trying to get to an event that I know is, friendly for me to get to.
Yep.
So this was not even a possibility for me to come and be there with you in person.
I understand.
Or it's not going to be a possibility for me, because one of the things I can't do is drive there, because, or when I get to the event, the whole thing about setting up a tent.
Right.
So instead of having to depend on other people, I don't know.
I understand. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And I think that really highlights some of the issues that we have even at our indoor sites, with the fact that ramps, hills, and things of that nature, we need to really be considering if we're saying it is, if it is accessible friendly, we need to make sure it truly is, and that there are not such steep inclines and things of that nature to that where you can't get up and down the hill, or it's dangerous. It's dangerous in those situations. Yes. Yes.
But all the doorways in and out has lit.
Yep.
So it's a matter of my hair not get over the lip.
Over the lips.
So that was that, yeah. But
Yep.
Coronation,
Yep.
I get it out of it.
Right.
I just needed people to hold the doors for me. And then the other thing,
Yes.
you're in a chair, and you don't have to pay attention to what about them.
Yep. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us.
You're very welcome.
Yes. Yes. So, and I think that brings up some really good points. That how many of you feel like sometimes you're invisible? If you're in a chair, you have an issue walking and you need help, that you just don't seem to be. People just kind of look past you, look through you.
I feel like I make people.
You make people uncomfortable.
So one of the things that I had happened last year, I had sprained my ankle extremely badly, and so I was confined to a power chair working at San Japan, because we are the ones that provide disability and mobility services and accessibility awareness to convention goers
Right.
at the con, the three of us, she started it. And so I'm in my power chair for that weekend, and people would look at me and just walk right in front of me. Or I would be trying to go into the bathroom and I can't push the door open. I can't get the door open at all. So I got fussed at by some of the other staff, because if I had to go to the bathroom, I would just leave my scooter at our booth and go walking halfway across one of the convention halls to go to the bathroom so I could pull open the stupid door. But I got into an elevator at one point, and and we had an elevator set aside specifically for people who were under our program. And I'm in this elevator, and this kid goes, well, the elevator's only for people who are disabled, because he sees my walking boot, and goes, you could just use the escalator in your scooter.
And she's on a scooter.
His mother, who's in the elevator with me, she had a walking stick, and she looks at him and goes, how the hell is she supposed to use the escalator in a wheelchair? And and that was the moment where I was like, for me, being able to, all over, being restricted for just that one weekend, I was like, all right, here's some things we need to really point out.
Mm-hmm.
Because also just to get to some of the elevators, to get to some of these things, and the fact that I had to get somebody else to open the bathroom door.
Yeah.
And it was ridiculous. And the fact that it's like, you go this way, you go this way, you go this way, and then this way to even get to the stalls. It was
Eye-opening.
It was eye-opening, and I did have the power chair just me on a hill. Thankfully, go back up it, but I had people pushing me.
100%.
And this was in the city. This wasn't even an SEA event, and it made me aware.
I am Sigourney Burka, and I have an unseen disability, invisible disability. There are times when I come to events that I have been in a wheelchair, I'm able to walk. I have a walker, I have a cane, and when I'm doing well, I'm mobile. And I have run across all of these issues and more. And one of the things that I hear the most and that I see the most is that we really need to be more clear in our expectations of our event sites and what we're putting, because a lot of times I read this event site is disability friendly, and exactly what all of you have been saying, and it goes right along with that. When it's a regular indoor site and there's disability parking and there's this and there's that, and everybody's like, oh, it's perfect. Wheelchairs can come here. Canes can come here. This is great. I've been trapped outside of a convention center because I can't get the door open, because I just can't open the door. And I've been trapped in bathrooms because I can't get the door open to get out. I love places where I go where they don't have doors. One of the things that we can do is to be cognizant that that is a problem. Our event stewards need to make sure that we have people set up outside of convention centers to help people with doors. Doors are huge when you're in a mobility scooter, when you're in a wheelchair, or when you just don't have the power of your own body to open the door. And we also need to be aware of everything that they've said about lifts and berms and where you can go. I've been to many sites with my wheelchair that were said to be disability friendly and 100% accessible. And I've got out of my car and literally were parked under a pavilion on the one piece of cement slab. And I got to sit there all day, and I saw nothing of the event that happened because I got to sit right there.
Accessible part.
Where the accessible part was, and I didn't get to go anywhere else. And so we need to rethink what we're doing and what we're saying to people when we're doing these events. And we have to actually think like a disabled person. One of the things that I'm doing with heraldry is trying to get people to understand people with vision impairment and hearing impairment. So go to an event for an entire weekend with earplugs and earmuffs and just see what happens. How are you communicating with people? How do you know what's going on? How are you understanding what the heralds are saying? And the same thing with vision. Blindfold yourself and go and see what you hear and how everything affects you. And if you are an event steward, take somebody in a wheelchair. Somebody's got one, you can borrow it. I've got one. Anywhere you're around me, you can borrow it and take somebody, walk that site with them, the whole thing. This kind of a site, an indoor site. Try to get into the bathrooms, try to get into the porta-johns, and then make your notes on your event advertisement of how accessible it is.
That's a really good point, because just a blanket statement that something's accessible doesn't necessarily, you may be accessible to the parking lot, but you're not accessible to the rest of the event.
Right.
100%. Right.
Yeah, one of the things that I have is I have a cognitive disability. I have dyslexia. So sometimes I have to have people, when they talk to me, re-explain things to me. And sometimes I've been in meetings where people get a little frustrated and I'm like, look, I have this disability, and you have to speak to me in a way that I can understand, because sometimes I'm not getting totally all of your signals. So, and I might come across as sharp, and I'm not trying to be. It's just that I'm just trying to let you know that I can't understand. And it's, and with dyslexia, sometimes if I get long emails, it's really tough. So Zoom meetings are so much better, because I did this when I do events. We do Zoom meetings so I can see emotions, and then I can hear what people are saying much better than what I can do when I read an email or something on a Facebook page.
Hi, I'm Hadvig Vermelin. I'm from Jornsburg. This is my daughter Marissa. As you see, not very many people are here with their special needs children because it's super challenging. And I was actually thinking this event that maybe this is our last event, because it is really challenging. But all of you wonderful people have said everything that I've had a problem with Maritza. The biggest thing, of course, is just the simple thing, which is going to the bathroom. It's very challenging, especially with a special ed. And not just me, but a parent with a small child will still need to accompany their child in the bathroom. So that larger handicap bathroom is handy for not just the handicap, but for other people who have other issues, including, and I think this is a perfectly valid reason, people with really large gowns. I mean, seriously, they need the large bathroom. Yes. And I really need a handicap bathroom for Maritza. And she walks really slow. So everything that you guys talked about is wonderful. But there's one thing, and it's a board of directors thing. But if you could think about it, when she turns 21, she will no longer be a sub-family member payee. You know how you can have 3 adult members in your house until one of them is 21, then you can only have 2 21 and older ones. I mean, that sounds great. But, I'm retired military, and she'll always be my military dependent. So it's just a little tiny thing that maybe we make people who love playing but have handicapped adult children hang on to the dream a little longer.
I have a 15-year-old son, and that's something I had.
Yeah.
I had not thought about that.
Yes.
After she was.
Okay. Something that I was bringing in from someone else who couldn't be here as well is food allergies and intolerances is also a disability. And I've seen feasts get a lot better about saying, we have a gluten-free option or a vegan option, but it seems to stop at feasts, sideboards, luncheons, fighter support, taverns, all like food intolerances and allergies are not just feasts. They need to be thought about anywhere there's food. Speaking of, all the food here either has the ingredients list under it, or I have the cards in my pocket if you need them.
One of the things I work for the federal, or for the local government in my area, which also works for the federal government. One of the things that we have, because we're so prescribed by the federal government, is a checklist that we all speak common language among my fellow government. When I say accessible, it has a very defined meaning, and I think we in the SCA need to get to that point. And the SCA Central Handbook needs to be the forerunner for that, and addendum to that to define it. Because I know when I started out in the SCA. I was doing autocrating. I had no idea what any of this was. I didn't even know what to say. I saw a handicapped placard on there. I saw a handicapped back room. I thought we were covered. As I've gone further in my career, I've learned that that is not the case, and that defining and having a rule book for your autocrats and your seneschals and other people can be a helpful tool. Because sometimes it's not that you don't mean; it's just you're just not educated.
Yeah, you just don't know. If you haven't sat in somebody's wheelchair, walked a mile in their shoes, used their cane, been with that disability, you just may not realize how that affects day to day. I'm coming back this way. You?
I would like to echo what everybody has said so far. I'm not disabled, but something else I've also heard is accessibility accommodations help everybody. There's no reason to not have them. They help everybody from, disabled people who need the most to families, to people with, big gowns, as you mentioned, to people carrying things. Everybody at some point has been able to do things more easily because of accessibility accommodations. I know they've helped me all the time. The push button to open doors, those help me all the time at work.
Pardon.
So I'm going to bounce off something Roxy said as it pertains to food. So my dearest friend Eva and her family, they are Muslim, and they often don't buy feast because there's nothing that they can eat. They can't participate in the protein of it because it's not halal. And she's not expecting that meals be halal, but the option that she's constantly told is, we'll give you extra vegetables. Are you going to pay $10 for vegetables? So we have to think about what if someone's not going to eat the meat for whatever reason, what do we have of substance so that they can still participate in feast?
I'm gluten intolerant, or at least I should be. I should be gluten free. At my own risk, I know the consequences. If space and tables allow, think about putting up tables in feast for people who cannot eat the feast but still want to be included in the revelry. Feast is I can't speak. Is a big part of SCA culture, and people who cannot eat feasts for whatever reason automatically get excluded from that. But if there is extra space, they can set up their own tents and eat their own food and at least still be participants.
And that's the whole idea, is to make sure that people are still participating. I'm going to walk back around here. Oh, that's one. Yeah.
I was just going to ask, I've been working on the seneschal handbook, but I feel like there's seneschal issues here, but really these are event issues.
These are event issues.
To me, these are events that is part of seneschal, but would you guys think that maybe an event handbook would be helpful?
Yeah,
Talk about
absolutely.
terms.
Yes.
Separate. So let's say you want to autocrat an event. You have an event handbook, explains how to get on the calendar, and explains what accessibility can mean.
Yeah.
And what the terms are. Do you think that would be helpful?
Yeah.
Not that, we're working on a lot of training and stuff, but
Shameless plug. The Chatelaine Symposium in December, I will be teaching DEI terms 1 and 2, and it covers that.
yeah.
Well, 1 second, because I have a controverting opinion on this side, so I'm kind of curious.
It's something I've been trying to compose to share with this, because I was discussing with some autocrats and landed people about upcoming events, and was point blank asked, what could we do to be more accommodating? And while yes, writing a notation and rules and guidelines and having consistent verbiage of consistent guidelines, this is what this means, is great. But I think what I would like to see across the board is, it's not so much we need to set rules and regulations, or these are the guidelines. The guidelines go back to, we need people to start being more aware of people around them. And it harkens back to a lesson from cadets and squires, where part of the thing was they were supposed to be doing this challenge, but the real challenge was when they saw a person in the distance with a burden, and they had to stop what they were doing to go, let me help that person. And I believe that is what we need to see. We need to encourage more from our populace as a whole, not just our leadership.
Yes, I agree. You're bouncing off?
So I'm gonna bounce off. So I would like to. So I agree, I don't agree. So how I become more knowledgeable is by putting together a book to challenge my mind. I read the book. I then see you differently because now I'm looking after your needs in my events. My populists are understanding more what is the vocabulary. So if I start with the education part, I then value you as part of the group to make a better event, which now makes me have eye contact with you as I have this conversation.
It's a parallel, in my
Yes.
opinion, like I said,
Put
it wasn't
together.
a disagreement, like we're saying, it's a parallel.
It's a parallel. I will take that.
I had two hands right here.
Kamal, a lot of this to me, and this is sort of bouncing off some things, but also looking at experiences. Recently, I have had to deal with a lot of accessibility issues. It's been very eye-opening watching this because I think some of it, yes, is on our ability to look at a site and determine accessibility problems. But sometimes they can't get out to a site or whatnot, and sites will claim to be accessible. And we need to have plans in place for what happens when we get there and they aren't as accessible as they claim.
Yes.
On top of that, though, it's also a training issue. Like, as a beastocrat, I have tried countless times to make beasts that are as accessible to as many people as possible. But when I've worked with others or I've talked to people who have gluten intolerances or other allergies to try to eat beasts, they've gotten sick at some who claimed that they had done all of the work because maybe they didn't clean the dishes well enough, or they included an ingredient that had a mix that contained something that was an allergy. And so while we can't expect our bee stewards to get a food handler's license and go through all of that work, there's a lot of training that we can do for new bee stewards to show them better methods and practices for how we can manage bees and make sure that everyone can enjoy them.
Okay. Nadia?
Hi, I'm Nadia. I also am undergoing some issues recently. But I wanted to celebrate success in accessibility. When we were at Yornsburg's fall event, before, because their feast is served buffet style, so you gotta carry your plates, and you know, you've got kids, you've got plates, advice. So before when they open the feast, they have call out for if you are available to assist people in help carrying their plates, like please come see the head steward. And it was incredibly helpful because, you know, by that time we've been on our feet all day, it was magical. And so it's that, and it's great to have people because we all want to help, right? So having that call out of like, here is concrete thing you can come do.
And it's a great place for service, but it reminds me, it reminds me of the old Luby's restaurants where when we were little, or if you're, they used to ring the bell and they would come, a server would come and they would pick up your tray for you and get you seated. And that's not there shouldn't be a hard thing to do for those who need extra pairs of hands.
It also made me think that, you know, discussing helping each other when we have
100%.
Carry some captains and whatnot. If there is a possibility of having that more organized fashion, like extended day available to help with whatever accessibility assistance or something else. Just saying, like, if you need assistance, tell the folks, okay, and you know, this area.
It's something also that the autocrats of the event, you know, we select people to head up feasts. We select people that head up nasty cart. We select people to head up all these things. We could add to that, have a disability person there and have a disability team, a disability helper.
Ability helper.
A mobility helper. Yes.
Accessibility.
Yes. A mobility 100%. Accessibility consultant?
Kind of a criteria and a work put together for someone to have that included on the event.
And you know, this is actually a really good point, because those of us who don't have those issues think of it as disability. And it's not a disability. It is a mobility. I'm learning new words. I'm still learning new words as we go. For those with physical issues, it's a mobility issue. For those with mental and emotional issues, it's neurodivergent. And that's a completely new term for me. And that's something I was hoping we could kind of get to, but we've gotten a lot of, we've gotten a lot today on this particular topic. So let me kind of run back around. Yes, ma'am.
Bounce off of that thing about the service, for 100 years ago, back when I was teaching junior high school and stuff like that, I had some kids come with me, junior high kiddos. And, they were my page group. We called them Gopher Guilt. Because they go for this and they go for that. And I had a lovely discussion with Willow to, about why I wasn't going to change the name, because it was Gophers. And what they did was they would attach themselves to somebody or other and be their page, could be their squire, but they would be helping in whatever ways. This is not a minister of children's activities. This would be something to have the high school and junior high kiddos
100%.
work with, and college kids who still trying to figure out where they are in the group. Some of them are gung ho at where they're at, but some of them are, we need to have some kind of a, like you said, a point where they will be, contact.
Orazio?
So, since I've been listening in, because I'm trying to run an event coming up, trying to think through the logistics of like limited capacity and that sort of thing. I have two questions that I'd like input on. One is just having like a point of contact for any additional accessibility concerns beyond what is on like listed in the event information. Because I imagine that like those with accessibility issues are probably the most likely to see through any of the like issues that the event staff might not have, and can help them figure out what they might have missed when looking through or south. So I'm going to think that's a good idea. And then two, thinking through all the things that I've heard about issues just trying to get into the site. If there was a regular, like, hey, on the top and bottom of the hour, there's going to be people coming outside to check and see if anybody needs help, so that you're not sort of keeping people stuck outside, but like there will be, if you arrive these times, there are going to be people who come to the parking lot and check and see if anyone needs help. Is that like a yeah, or yes, exactly. Oh, I see ups and downs, which I love.
I'm gonna you off that, because something I thought was very interesting, unless you attended, is we had a app that was set up where you could basically text somebody and have them come. And that would be a little bit easier, if there was a designated person with a designated number and you put in a text that says, I need help at this location. And they could text you back and say, I'm on my way, or I'm assisting another individual, but I will be right there. Give me 10 minutes. But something that would allow us to maybe communicate with somebody, that way we're not running one person into the ground or putting one person outside at the door, being a door usher all day long, where they don't get to see any of the event as well. Because while we serve, we also like to play too. So just a thought. Valeria?
To bounce off what Morgan said about the halal, also kosher is a big thing.
Yep.
And one of the other things that you can offer, if you have somebody that's Jewish, if they can't have a kosher meal, if you have dairy, that is an option for them, because that would be like what we consider parve. So if you have your regular feast, but you also have a dairy meal that you could provide them, that would make us feel more welcomed, and it would make us feel more part of the event. So it's just like any type of small dairy dish. And we do this because I have a lot of background with school and camp events, and that's what we would provide for the kids. We'd have a kosher meal, but if they didn't want that, they could have either a vegetarian or a dairy option, so they could all be included in and be up to eat.
Absolutely. Excellent. I've been holding on to three.
One, my own personal one. I do not look disabled.
Right.
Anyone? But it depends. Every single morning is a roll of the dice whether or not I'm going to be able to get out of bed. And I can start out with it being able to walk up this hill. And by tomorrow morning, I might not be able to. The point being is if someone tells you they need assistance, if someone tells you that they are disabled, really it's not on you to judge whether they are right or wrong. Please believe people when they say they're disabled because not every disability is disabled.
Don't roll your eyes and don't judge. If somebody asks for help, we should be providing help because that's part of this dream is the service to each other.
Yes. I have been denied a ride on a golf cart at Gulf War because it was only for disabled people.
And I would remind this nonprofit 501c3 organization that's just tied, your stuff is tied to federal government. That's law.
Yeah, yep. 100%. They're not allowed to ask. They're not allowed to ask. It's a HIPAA violation.
You said, and it works the same way with the text. For the accessibility consultants on staff, set up I don't want to say an RSVP, but some way that people who have accessibility concerns can message a designated person before the event to work out accessibility concerns. That way it's not showing up on site and not knowing if you can get in.
Right. You should know those things before you ever pay your site fee.
Yes. Third and last one, and this is coming from a message from Her Excellency Christina.
Yes.
When you see events do good things, when you see events put accessibility things into place and it works well, tell the landing, tell your DEIB officer, tell the Crown so that we can start including that. Because we may not be present and see it. So if you see something that works, let us know.
100%. That's question. Okay, so the lady, you haven't had a chance to address this.
To bounce off, like if someone's disabled, don't ask, just assist them in any way you can. I know we were talking about disabled, but differently abled. But if someone is uncomfortable because of who they are, I think it's better for people to try to help them make them comfortable instead of questioning, well, what's your problem?
They shouldn't be doing that anyway. That's coming.
As the macros have mentioned about San Japan, I'm in charge of it, so there's an email, and it's the name of the department. I know we're still trying to establish structure here in Ansteorra on DEIB, but if there's not a local DEIB officer, then maybe the seneschal or someone is an assigned contact on the website, so they can that's who they email.
Yes. So let me address that because that raises a really good point. So this office is new. It is newer to our kingdom. The society in itself is still trying to establish, and there will be some new things. It's my understanding from the society level that there will be some new things rolled out starting in April. But what they're trying to do is figure out what the structure should be. We have our kingdom level office established. There was some drifting down into regional level offices, and then they've asked us to stop on regional level offices because they have a structure that's coming out. So I think it's going to be very important to see what the new structure is and get involved. Please get involved with the community. This is not a hard office to hold as a regional, but you are the ones that can really start helping the local autocrats get this information down to them. Be willing to go inspect sites and help them because groups have there's a lot of things that go into selecting a site. It's not always just money, but it's do they have a kitchen? Do they have the facilities? But when we start talking about do they have the facilities that we need, as Her Excellency has talked about, it needs to be on the checklist. Do we have the facilities for accessibility? Not just do we have a kitchen? Do we have a list field? Can people get there? And yes, for all of your meetings. And so that is something that hopefully by having these conversations, that's the whole point of having these conversations, is to start having the conversations, spreading the knowledge and getting people involved, because this is an important community and your voices need to be heard. And that's what we're hoping to do through the salon. I want to thank everybody for coming out today, because we've got great notes. We have a completely recorded conversation. And the idea now is to take all of our notes, pull our key ideas and put them out onto our DEIB Facebook. We have a great Facebook page that Castellana's been running, so you guys can see this, but also for those of you that are active in your groups, grab them, take them to your local seneschal and say, hey, we had this great conversation. Maybe these are some things we need to look at for our event coming up, to try to bring our people back and not have people leave because they feel like they can't get to a simple facility like a bathroom. Yes. And Her Excellency is reminding me, so we have another one of these gatherings will be at WinterKingdom, and we're going to discuss marginalized communities and outreach to marginalized communities at WinterKingdom. And I have been requested to try to do an online as well. And so when I get a date for the online, probably after WinterKingdom, we'll do another online meeting. That way we can continue with these conversations and hopefully set a precedent that these conversations continue throughout our kingdom to make our kingdom better.
And you're going to be seeing the results.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Results of these will be going out. What we can do is we can tack a document onto the Kingdom Facebook page, but also onto the DEI Facebook page. Yeah. And also to the website. Yes. And if anybody who wants to go back and rewatch, Kofi has been kind enough to record. And so if you wanted to rewatch any part of it, but also let your friends know, those that weren't able to be here, those that weren't able to participate, let them see that we are trying to make strides. Let them see that we take their voices seriously, and don't just leave us because you think you're not being heard, because I hear you and this kingdom will hear you.
Your Majesty.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Starts from the top.
Yes. Is everyone familiar with spoon theory?
Yes.
Talking about invisible disabilities and the way we have to portion our energy. This is a lovely Bucky's purchase, but it was beautiful and it's a gorgeous spoon. Thank you very much, Your Majesty, for hosting this.
Thank you very much.
Spoon.
I have a spoon.
Yes, I have one. And we have plenty of food. Shout out to everyone who came to my aid with food.
Please have a
Please
snack.
eat.
Yes.
If you need ingredients list, check. They're either under or I have them in my pocket.